Hello guys, and welcome to a new tutorial coming from ModoCookie.com. My name is Justin and I'll be showing you how to create a Christmas globe. So since Christmas is coming, well, it's almost near, I'm thinking that maybe we should do a Christmas tutorial. So what's better to create in the Christmas spirit rather than a globe? So we're going to create a globe. You can probably see in the header the resulting image. Well, it's probably not going to be exactly as this one. Like I said in my previous tutorials, images take a lot of time to get tweaked, and in a tutorial we got to do it on the run because we're pressed by time. And of course this image has a fair amount of Photoshop work on it, but I'll leave the post-processing to you. So we're gonna go here and start modeling the globe. We're going to start with the sphere. Make sure you have 40 sides and 40 segments. I'm going to pick a 300mm radius on all axes. Okay, and I'm going to exit sub D. I'm going to make sure this is centered, and now I'll go in here and delete some polygons to make way for the top part. So I'm going to delete those polygons, and then using edge extend I'm going to start and create this neck here that's gonna serve as the point on which the cap will be attached, and then the cap will be attached to some string or wire or whatnot, so it can be placed on the tree or in the tree, or I don't know whatever you want. Okay, so now I'm just tweaking this. Find it to be a little too small. Okay, anyway, you can spend your time and do it right. Okay, so now let's create the cap. I'm going to go to the top view and I'm going to create a cylinder, and I'm going to create a cylinder with 12 sides. Radius is not important because we will scale it. Okay, so I'm going to scale it just like that, and I'll be using extrude, scale it down, and I'm still not happy with this neck here. Okay, that's more like it. Okay, and I'm going to delete the bottom and top cap. Then I'll go in here and I'll add a slice right there. Make sure it's straight. Okay, and let's try something here. I haven't did this in my previous attempt. So let's give a bevel to these edges. Okay, and then select those polygons and delete them. Okay, now we're gonna select those vertices, change your action center to local, and we're just gonna scale them kind of like that. Okay, and this cap seems to be a bit over. Okay, and now we're going to add some thickness using thicken, of course, just like that. And we will, however, let me try to add the thickness again because I want to delete the inner polygons. So I'm just going to, I think we need to select this. Yeah, so select it, add thickness, and delete the inner polygons, and these two. Okay, let's check for double vertices here. Yeah, we have some. You have two vertices there, so we're going to use the vertex merge tool to get rid of those. Okay, and now we're going to go in here into the left view, and we're going to add two slices. Hold down Shift and add the second slice. Excuse me. Okay, and we're going to select the bottom vertices, and we're going to scale them out just a little. Okay, and now we're going to make sure that actually we're going to select those vertices now, and using a local, whoops, actually no, we're going to leave them like that, but what we're going to do is we're going to add an edge right there to help sharpen up. Okay, and we're going to add one right there. Okay, because then we're going to join these, but after we create this bevel here. Actually, create one there, shift click, okay, and now we're going to join them. Okay, and you might want to add an edge right there and one right here and at the top. Okay, we're getting this sharp looking thing here, but we can get rid of that if we merge some of these vertices. Doesn't really matter if we have a triangle in there. Okay, let's see if it smooths out correctly, and it does. Okay, I think we can even merge those. Nah, they look better like this. Okay, so we're going to repeat the process. I'm using join averaged, but I have it mapped on the letter J on my keyboard. I think I showed in a previous tutorial how you can do that. I think it was the billboard tutorial. Okay, and I have a lot to go here, so I'm just gonna pause the video, do it, and I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm done. Now let's create this cap here, and again I'm going to join them up. So that's about it. Okay, and we now need to create the hook that's gonna do here, and we're gonna create it really simple this time. When I did my tutorial, I'm sorry, when I did my original model, this hook was actually physically connected to the to this cap, but it's not really worth it because, well, it's not worth it because from the angle that we're gonna render these, you won't even notice it. Okay, and it looks like we need to extend this a bit up. Too much. Bring it down just like that. Okay. So we're going to create this using a torus. Okay, make sure you have the sides to 10 and the segments to 4, and you have 15 millimeters on the Y and Z, and 10 millimeters or so, maybe even 20. Let's make this 15 and this 20 millimeters because it's okay like that. So I'm gonna make this smaller. Okay, and I'm going to select those bottom polygons and I'm gonna delete. Then I'm going to scale these in, and whoops, and I'm gonna bring that in just like that. Maybe even cheat a little bit and do it like this, and it's a bit too tall, so just like that. Okay, now this cap, we're gonna rename it to cap, and we're going to go in here and add the subdivision level to 3 because we were getting some weird, the polygons were getting faceted. Okay, so we're gonna call this globe. Okay, and that's it for the modeling phase. Save the scene. Now we need to go over and create some UVs. Now the UVs are going to be done in the following way. We have two options. One is to map it like I did in my original unwrap here, like this, or we can do basically the same thing but make the projection cylindrical. I'm going to show you in a second what I mean. So we're gonna detach this bottom part till around there. So unwrap it, move it down, hide it, and then we can go here to UV projection tool, cylindrical, Y, click, and that's it. It will be projected just like that. And then we're gonna hit pack UVs, and it's gonna pack it for us. So we have either that option, and then move these around, or let me just create a new map, globe 2. Thing is, we're not really interested how this is going to be unwrapped because we will be painting what we need in Modo. We're not going to go to Photoshop or GIMP or anything else, any 2D application. So we're going to unwrap this again, move it that way, and hide it. Okay, and we can select an edge and then click unwrap, and we need to unwrap it with, well, say 1000, and the projection axis needs to be Y, maybe Z, yeah, Z and U, or like this. Now it won't really matter. What it does matter is the texture space that it occupies. So you can either go with that or go with this. Doesn't really matter. So let's try the new method. So we're gonna leave it like this. Okay, let's make sure we don't have too much stretching, even though it won't really matter since these polygons are covered and they won't have any texture on them. So we're gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna save the scene. I'm gonna go over to my paint tab, and what we're gonna do now, we're gonna add a material. I'm gonna call it globe. Okay, we're gonna go over to material, make sure that we have the diffuse amount to 100% and the diffuse color set to black. Okay, specular amount to 0. Okay, and then we can start texturing this. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a mask for the glitter. Okay, so the mask is going to be black and white. So we set the material to black so we can paint with white. So I'm going to add a color texture. From the Utilities tab, I'm going to go Add Color Texture. I'm going to call it Color Tut from Tutorial, of course. Click OK, OK, and OK. And now we're going to start painting. Now, the thing is, what are we going to paint? Well, we could paint something. Could go and paint something like this. Okay, make sure we paint with white. So we could go and paint like this, or however you want. But we're not going to do that, because that would be gibberish. So I have here some textures, but unfortunately I cannot share them since they're from my personal collection. It's part of a purchased vector graphics. But any black and white image will do. So if you have a face of Jesus or a face of I don't know, something else, can turn it black and white or whatever. It needs to be black and white because we're going to use it as mask. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to show you how to load the pictures into Imaging. We're going to be using Imaging. So go in here to the image. This is from a previous tutorial. So you're going to go in here. I already have mine added. So what you can do is go in here and click Add Path and just go where the textures are stored. So let's start. We're going to pick paintbrush and a solid white color, a hard brush, a nozzle, density and opacity at 100, foreground color at white, background color at black, and we're going to use this crest first. And we're going to click once and the crest will be created. And what we need to do is tick here use color as mask and invert mask. If you need to have invert mask on if the detail that you want to paint is black. Okay, so like in my case. So I'm going to start adding some of these crests. I'm going to go into the left viewport, and I'm going to make sure that I have mine the size I want. This with this here you can move it, the center circle. With this one you can rotate it, and with this one you can scale it. So I'm going to put mine at about that scale, maybe a bit smaller. Okay, make sure the soft border is set at 0. Okay, and I'm just going to paint over until my mask gets painted. Okay, now I'm going to go to the right view and I'm going to repeat the process. Then I'm going to go to the front view. Okay, and repeat the process. Then the back, and repeat the process. And now let's change this to this decoration. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in a little, and I'm gonna make it so it fits snugly in there. Okay, sorry. And we're gonna paint just like that. And now to the front. Then to the left. And then to the right. Okay, and then we're gonna go to the bottom. I'm gonna switch over to wireframe to make sure that I'm centered, and I am. I'll go to advanced OpenGL, and I'll just actually, whoops, redo. Okay, make sure that I'm centered. Okay, and I'm gonna scale this up. Try not to go over this portion of the UV island. Don't want any weird artifacts showing. And I didn't. It can even be bigger, but I'm gonna leave it like this. Okay. And I'm gonna add one more. Let's say these stars. I'm gonna scale them. And I'm gonna add them right in there. One thing I forgot to mention, make sure that you don't have repeat on or stamp. Okay, and one more. And we're done. Now we can save the scene. Okay, and if we go in here and see the image that we created, you're going to see that it's black. And we need to bake this in order for it to show. So what we need to do, we need to go in here and either duplicate this and go to diffuse coefficient, set it to diffuse coefficient, and I'm going here and to render and bake to render outputs, but we need to set our frame width and height to 1024. It has the correct UV map, and bake to render outputs. Okay, with diffuse coefficient, and we can save the image. Let's just save it for now. Let's go to here. We're gonna save it as color mask, okay? Or I'm not really sure this is gonna work. We're going to use bake to texture, and it overwritten it. Yeah, it doesn't work all the time, but anyway, we still have it here. Whoops, not this one, this one. Okay, so now if we were to remove this and add this one, we're gonna get the same thing. It's a bit blurry, okay, because the image is Maybe we should have gone for a 2K resolution, but that's why I went for the funky shape here, because it gave me a lot more texture space. But this is gonna work. Okay, so now as you can see, I have mine inverted here. Now it actually it's okay. It's okay because when I first painted it, I painted it inverted, so I painted with black, and it didn't work. So it needed to be inverted. So we're not going to do that because this is already done. So let's start and create the glitter. I'm going to go here to Final Color Output, and you're not going to guess how we're going to create the glitter. Well, we're going to create the glitter using fur, and it's actually pretty simple. First of all, we have this globe material, and we're going to set up some basic lighting here. I'm going to delete my directional light, and we're only going to use an environment texture, HDR image of this fire. Okay, two light are seen. Okay, and I'm gonna make sure that the gamma is set to 2.2, because if it's set to 1, we're getting too harsh lighting. So gamma 2.2. If we set it to gamma corrected, we're getting even harsher lighting. So that's why it's set to 2.2. Okay, so we're gonna set this to 80%, and we're gonna add fur material. And you can see that the fur is a bit too big right now, and it's encompassing all of our globe. Well, of course we don't want that, so we're gonna select the fur material, hold down Control G. It's gonna create a group, and we're gonna set the scope of the group to fur. Okay, we're gonna add layer, and we're gonna add a material for the fur, which is going to affect the fur alone. And next we're going to add this mask that we created. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to set it to fur length. And what that does is just that. It basically tells Modo that wherever there is white, you have fur, and wherever there's black, you have no fur. You would probably tend to go for fur density, but as you can see, the results are a bit off. So fur length gives much more accurate results. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna set the diffuse amount for the fur to be 0, and for the globe, let's just pick something like this red here. Okay, let's assign also material to the cap and save our scene. Okay, so let's start with the cap. Now the cap is going to have, it's going to be chrome, so we're going to have 10% diffuse. We're going to have a grayish color. Okay, we're going to have a reflection amount of 30 with a Fresnel amount of 30 with blurry reflection on, and 10%. Actually, we should have 85%. Okay, reflection, conserve energy on, and I'm going to rotate my probe here because I'm not really liking that hot spot. So I'm gonna leave it like this. So the cap, okay, we're gonna have 5% roughness. Okay, then we're gonna add a layer noise with a very small amount, like 100 UM. Okay, and this one's going to be set to bump. And you can see that the bump is way too intense, and we're going to change it to 2.1 millimeters. Okay, and we want the reflection to be somewhat golden. Or you could go for blue, but I'm going to go for golden. Okay, just like that. Okay, and that's it for the cap. Now this is going to be the interesting and fun part, texturing the globe and the fur. Now we haven't we're not ready with the fur yet, so we need to do a few tweaks. First of all, let's change the first settings here. So we're going to change adaptive sampling. We're going to change the fur rate to 2, just so we get more fur. We're going to change the length to 10. Okay, and we're going to change the type here. We're going to leave it at cylinders, but we're going to change to billboards, trees. Okay, so if we zoom in here, you're going to see that we have tiny planes. Okay, and we want them to be double-sided. Okay, and again we're going to modify this a bit. We're gonna put view first and calling on. We're gonna put the strip rotation to 20, and we're gonna put the spacing to 2 millimeters, and you're gonna see that the detail is gonna start coming through. And we also want the width to be, actually we're gonna put the length to 5. No, maybe 7. Yeah, 7. And we're gonna put the width to be 60. Okay, and we're gonna decrease the spacing even more to maybe 1 millimeter. Okay, if we render this, just a quick test render, you're gonna see that we're getting pretty nice results. Okay, and we're gonna leave it like this. Now we're gonna tweak the material for the fur. So we want this to be glitter, but we want it to be golden. So we're gonna select a reflection amount of 80%. Okay, and we're actually maybe lower, something like 50. And we want it to be conserve energy on. We want 50% diffuse, and we want a golden color, kind of like that. And we also want to have 50% Fresnel, and the reflection color is going to be the same as our diffuse color. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste it right here. And there we go. We should be getting something like that. Let me just play with the diffuse amount. Yeah, leave it to 100%, and the reflection amount to 50. So we don't have too much reflection, but we're gonna be okay. So now, I'm still not happy with this length. I'm feeling that it's a bit too chunky. But okay, this is the basic idea. So now let's texture the group. Let's call this glitter. Okay, and we're gonna texture the globe. So we're gonna add a layer. We're gonna add a gradient. Okay, and the gradient is not going to affect the fur at all, but we only want it to be on the cylinder. Okay, so we're gonna edit this gradient. Okay, so we want to have a reddish, actually we want to have a dark red on the edges. and the brighter red in the front. Okay, save the scene. Okay, and if you want to see better, you can turn off the glitter. Okay, and now we're gonna have of course you can play with this and set it to either multiply or normal multiply. I'm gonna leave it on normal multiply, and I'm gonna go in here and take conserve and I'm sorry, not conserve energy. I'm gonna change the diffuse amount to 100. I'm gonna put the specular amount to 20. Even though if you have lights in the scene, you can put the specular amount on, but if you don't, just leave it off because it's not gonna be affected anyway. Okay, so we're gonna put reflection amount to 30, Fresnel to 30, and we're gonna have blurry reflections, 128 rays with 10% roughness, and we're gonna have the reflection color to also be red, but it's gonna be this more orangey red. Okay, and maybe we can add some clear coat and then increase the reflection to something like 60 is too much. Say 35 and 7. Okay, so 35 and 7. And then when we turn on the glitter, it's gonna look fantastic. Let me just do a quick test render so you can see. And while this is rendering, I'm gonna tell you that in the final image here, we're not gonna create the satin material that you see. A very good satin material is available on the forums. I'm sorry, on the share section on the Luxology site. It's made by Yazan Malkosh. Um, the material is very good and very nice. Unfortunately, it eats up a lot of render time, but we're gonna be okay. So as you can see, we're getting nice fur, but I'm also thinking that the glitter is still too big for my taste, so I'm gonna leave it at 5 and I'm gonna change the width to 50%. Okay, I'm gonna change my size here to something smaller so we can see faster what's going on. So as I was saying, you can get the satin material from the Luxology site. Unfortunately, I can't share it. I would, but and I'm not going to attempt to recreate it now. Okay, and the glitter is fine, but we need more glitter, so I'm going to change the fur rate to 1. This way, we're going to get a lot more fur in here. Okay, and maybe a bit more reflection on the fur and less diffuse. Let's see. Like I said, it takes tweaking. You're never gonna get it right the first time. Okay. And I think that the reflection color here needs to be a bit off. Kind of like that. And the red, the reflection color from the globe is overtaking the glitter. Oh, and make sure you have strays set to 0. Okay. Let's see now. What can we do to increase the reflection? Maybe add more orange, diffuse here, and maybe put some clear coat on the fur. Anyway, you get the idea on how this is done, so you can play around as much as you like. And actually, for this example, let's do the glitter. Let's do it white. Okay, so we have a white glitter. Okay, so now it's time to create the satin. So the satin was created very easy. First, what I did is I grouped my globe, call it globe group, and then in item mode I instance it, instance hierarchy, okay, and I moved it around and I rotated it so it's a bit different than the other, and of course I'm going to rotate the other as well. Okay, and then move them as close together as possible. Okay, and then I went and I created a plane basically, and then I subdivided the plane, faceted quite a few times, about that much. Okay, and I made sure that it was under my cube. Oh, I forgot to mention, you don't need to. We can't use instance for this because the fur won't instance properly, so we need to simply duplicate it. And in the local, excuse me, in the local action center, we're going to rotate it a little, just like that. Okay, if you use instance, the fur, excuse me, the fur won't look as good as it does on the first globe. Okay, so now with this mesh selected, I'm gonna go over here to snapping. I'm gonna put the constraint mode to background, the snapping mode to geometry, and geometry constraint set to vector. And now once I move this up, and I'm sorry, in polygon mode, so once I move it, you're gonna see that the polygons that are right there, they're following, they're basically following the edge. Whoa, have a pretty ugly result here. We had the local action center on, and we probably messed it up really good. Okay, so we need to turn off the snapping. Or we can just delete this globe. Okay, and move, and you can see how the polygons followed the sphere. Okay, so we can duplicate the hierarchy. and move this in place. Excuse me, like that. Okay, and what I did next, I set my camera up. I'm gonna set my frame, and I've set my camera up just like this, and I modified the focal length to a zoomed in lens, like 70 millimeters. Okay, then I went to the top, I toggled cameras, and in polygon mode what I did is I just selected an area that was only seen by the camera, and I deleted the rest. And we can also delete the stuff that's behind the camera and the camera doesn't see. And the easiest way to do that is to go to Modo Quad, and you can start removing stuff. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it like this. Okay, then I'm saving my scene, and then I'm gonna go to Paint, and remember our camera's here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go in here and we're gonna toggle multi-resolution, and we're gonna put the subdivision level to 3, and using the sculpt tools, what I did was I started to sculpt. Let me just put my nozzle on. Okay, so what I did was I just started to sculpt with okay, and sculpting and helping those globes to really sit in there. And I also sculpted a few folds, and then I used tangent pinch to make them basically to pinch them together. But anyway, you can go and you need to spend time on this. Okay, I spent quite a lot of time when I did this. I think I spent like 40 minutes just sculpting. Okay, and helping them sit in there. But basically what you do is you use the push tool, the smooth tool, and move and tangent pinch. So that's what you do. Okay, and let's just say that we're done sculpting. And then what I did is I'm gonna toggle off my, well, you can see that you won't be able to see what we did. Well, it won't look like my image because I've done a decent amount of sculpting and setting these in. But anyway, that was about it for the modeling phase of the cloth. Okay, so then I added the material that I gotten from the Luxology share. Let me just toggle off the glitter because that's eating a lot of render time. Okay, so I added the satin material. Okay, and I changed the color. Now I changed the color to I left the silk base color the way it was, but what I did is I changed the color here. So I changed it to a light blue and a darker blue. And another thing that I did, because I didn't want this much reflection, what I did is I reduced the reflection amount from 75 to 50. Okay, and I increased the reflection rate to 512. And if you want this to render smoothly, what you have to do is you have to go here to the base shader. Okay, and you have to set the shading rate to 0.1, and that will help the satin and the fur and the chrome, but the render time is going to increase. This image that I did right here took around I don't know, 12 or 13 minutes to render. So bear in mind that increasing that shader rate to 0.1 will give you better results, but you will sacrifice render time. So you can play with the reflection of the satin to whatever color you want. Okay, and also what I did is I reduced the roughness to something smaller, like 30, and then I also I think I left this one as it was, but anyway, you get the idea. You can play with the material, and then for the render settings, also I changed my anti-aliasing to 16 samples, filter to Mitchell. I left the rate threshold at 0.05, wouldn't go less than that because then the render times will go through the roof for an image of this size. And I used a few render outputs in order to post-process this image. What I did, I used an ambient occlusion, uh, and a depth. And my depth was around 15 meters, I think. But the depth is scene dependent. Okay, and the ambient occlusion was set to 256 rays, and the range was set to 0.5 or even less, I think, 0.250. Anyway, citizen members can have a look at the scene that I created, and they can study what I have there. The rest of you guys, you can play around with the materials, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna achieve the same result that I did. And don't forget to share the images that you create. Thanks for watching, and Merry Christmas.